How's that for a little bit of weirdness? You know, when you're really doing improv, you don't control what comes out. I mean, I shouldn't say it that way, right? When you're really being 100%. So one thing I learned in composition, right? In modern composition, they talk about how you have varying degrees of control over the performers, right? As the composer, you can choose to be this much control over the musicians, or you can have this much control over the musicians. Now, if you apply that to free improvisation, then you can exert that same degree of control over yourself, right? And when you have improvisation that's all the way over into no control, then by definition, whatever comes out, and it can be ugly, it can be beautiful. It's some of the most honest music you will ever hear in your life. The problem is, honesty when it comes to communicating. Don't get me wrong, it's important to be honest, right? You guys know me. You guys know that I believe in not lying. I believe in being honorable and stuff like that. And you guys probably already know that about me. But I remember one time there was somebody that, for the sake of honesty, went out and told a bunch of people a bunch of stuff. And you know what? It just wasn't appropriate. And I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not always right to tell people everything that you're thinking. That's not a matter of honesty. That's a matter of self-control, right? You can obey the rules of honesty. Hello, Javier. Nice to see you. You can obey the rules of honesty without having to shoot your mouth off about every little thing that enters into your head, right? And free improvisation is kind of sort of like that. If you just let it all hang out, you can come up with very offensive stuff, right? But if I do free improv, so I'm going to do free improv now just to demonstrate what I'm talking about. I'm going to do free improv that is closer to a blues, okay? Now, I'm not thinking what chord progressions I'm playing. I'm not thinking about what song it might be or anything like that. But I'm going to contain my thoughts inside of a blues bracket, right? So in that context, there might have been other thoughts that I had, but I reject them immediately because they're not part of the conversation, right? In that context. So yes, you can have, when you're doing free improvisation, you can have different levels of control. I hope that makes sense. Hello, Michael. Hello, Mr. Lewis. Do you know what changes the TMEA state jazz ballad is based on? It sounds very contemporary. This is my final year trying out. I have no clue. I tried looking it up. Hello, Sean. Nice to see you. I spent a little bit of time looking it up, and no, I don't know what they are. So sorry, I can't help you there. Yeah. Hello, Sean. There's the other Sean. We got two Seans today. Sean McGinty and Sean Burton. All right. Let me quickly go to my website and make sure nobody has left any comments or questions there. Looks like there are no questions. Okay. So Michael asks, will I be releasing a confirmation improvisation soon? And the answer to that is, I don't know. I don't want to. Okay, so let me tell you about that. I don't always get this right? But for religious reasons, and we can get into a whole can of worms here, but I try not to say this is what I'm going to do in this. So let me tell you this way. I have plans to make a recording of that and put it up. Can I say that it's going to be soon? If I did that, I would be in danger of possibly lying to you. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say it's soon. But yes, that's in my list of things to do, is to make a recording of that. Oh, I missed Javier's question. Javier says, I have no problem playing with various sizes of mouthpieces. I have owned a shaky 24 to a box 7. Which would I stick with? I want to have just one. Now, rim size, I always go for comfort. Now, I have had, in all my years of teaching, maybe 2 or 3 students that all the different rim sizes were equally comfortable. And so with them, I don't know what to say, right? Because it's like a little bit unusual. And maybe if you don't have any problem playing with any of them, then you know what? Let's break down the mouthpiece issue. It's, first of all, I always say when it comes to equipment, I'm not saying that one brand is not better than another. I'm not saying that. Different brands can be better. But the things that make one brand, and this is just as true for trumpet, like mouthpieces and the trumpet, the things that make one brand better than another brand don't come into play until you're playing on the right size. So you could have a mouthpiece from a better brand that's the wrong size for you, and then the mouthpiece from a worse brand that's exactly the right size for you, and the one from the worst brand is going to be the better mouthpiece for you. So we want to find the sizing that matches our needs. And so the way I do that, we start always with the rim size. And when we talk about the rim size, we're talking about the internal measurement, not the external. We're talking about inside. So from one side of the cup to the other side of the cup. Okay? We're looking for rim size first. We want the rim size to be comfortable. I have my students place the mouthpiece on their lips without blowing at all, right? And if there's any discomfort at all, we compare that to the same thing with a different size mouthpiece. So that's the first thing. Now, let's say hypothetically they all feel comfortable. Well, then you want to go with the smallest size that you're comfortable with. Well, let's take a step back first. It really depends on what kind of playing you want to do. But let's say you want to be a professional that plays like 4-hour gigs, maybe 2 or 3 gigs at a time in one day, right? Then you really should be going for the smallest size that works for you. Because when you have a bigger size mouthpiece, that presents certain problems that, now for me, I have to have the big size. I told you guys before because of my teeth. And I worked my way through those problems. Mostly endurance issues, but there's more than just endurance. So the general rule, I think, is go smaller, not bigger. All right. So the next thing we want to look at is the cup shape. And the cup shape is going to be according to what style of music are you trying to play. So, for example, if you're trying to play more commercial music, not necessarily jazz. Now, it might be jazz, but there's just, so you can have commercial jazz and you can have more acoustic traditional jazz. And the sound that you get, now let's make that clear, right? We're when you have a different cup shape, it creates a different sound. So if you want that more commercial sound, you're looking at a more V-shaped mouthpiece, but not necessarily a deep. So everyone knows about the deep V, right? That's what this is, a deep V cup. Okay. My lead mouthpiece that I'm using right now is a shallow V cup. And that's the one I use for my commercial playing. It's actually also the one I use if I'm playing outside, right? Because the overtones, your sound just gets lost outside if you don't use a shallower cup. So that's the next thing we're going to look at is what kind of cup do you need according to the style that you want to play, and the style is what's going to determine what tone you need, and that's why we need that cup. Then, if you have the luxury to do so, you can try different backbores. The backbore is the shape of the inside of this part. I might not be saying that correctly. But here's the thing: is this is priority stuff, right? Once you find the proper mouthpiece rim size, then that's the size you should always use. Once you find the cups, and I say cups plural because I actually use 3 different cups. Once you find the cups that you're looking for, that's what you stick to. Then you can play around with the backbore and stuff like that. So that's the priority. Rim first, cup, and then the backbore. And then if you want to, you can drill out your backbore. But I would strongly recommend being very conservative and cautious when you do that. Okay, because you can ruin an expensive mouthpiece that way. Hello, Anthony. He says, "Hi, Eddie. I hope you're doing good." Yes, I am. Thank you. I hope you're doing well too. So, Michael, I think I remember your name from last year, right? Are you one of the guys that I think I know you from the Q and A I made? Maybe I don't know. Okay, AC, yay! Nice to see you, AC. Um, yeah, AC says, "Hey Eddie, hope all is well." Yes, it is. Thank you. But I've been having trouble with a shaky tone. I've improved on my breathing techniques, but it's still shaky. Like I can play in tune, but my tone shakes in and out. First of all, breathing has nothing to do with playing shaky unless you had a problem with breathing. Breathing is inhale, right? That's breathing. If you're working on that, you're working on inhaling. So air exercises are what work on the shaky tone. Okay? Let me tell you my stance on the whole shaky tone thing. I believe that the shaky tone thing comes from non-trumpet sources. Now, I think the shaky tone thing comes from a lack of determination, true determination. I don't mean you're not excited enough, and I'm not saying this is the only thing. I'm trying to go through a list right here, right? A lack of determination, a lack of focus, a lack of peace. These are things that can cause your tone to shake. They are not trumpet related. If you've got a crazy life, your trumpet stuff is going to be crazy. And trying to calm that down on the trumpet when everything else in your life is chaotic. And I'm not saying your life is chaotic. I'm using that as an example. Okay? Now, this is going to sound like something I don't like. I don't like when people say, "Oh, you drink too much caffeine, so that's why you have a shaky tone." Someone told me that one time years and years and years ago, and that bothers me. And the reason it bothers me, I'm not saying that too much caffeine doesn't cause a shaky tone. I'm saying it might. And for someone to come out and say that's what it is just ignorant. But yes, if you have too much caffeine, so how does that work? If you have too much caffeine can take away your peace. So how do you know you've had too much caffeine? You sit down to relax, and your eyes going dark. You can't just sit and focus on something calmly. You're like spastic, right? And once again, I'm only giving this as an example. So it's not necessarily the caffeine that causes you to have a shaky tone. The caffeine, if you're drinking too much caffeine, can cause you to not get enough sleep. It can cause you to have weird things going on in your head. It can cause you to actually not even be able to hold your hand out straight without shaking. But yes, most of the time, it's something deeper than just the trumpet. I hope that makes sense. Most of the time, when you have a shaky tone, it's something hidden beneath the trumpet. I have seen this before with students who know that they shouldn't have practiced this week, that there were things that were more important and they practiced anyway. And now they come to the lesson and they have guilt. And I mean the deep, I'm not anybody's shrink. I never, ever, ever go into that stuff, okay? It actually repulses me when I hear other trumpet teachers, other lesson teachers talk about playing the role of shrink for their students. I think that's actually a very disgusting practice. First of all, it's not professional. If you want to develop that kind of relationship with a student, you go somewhere else to do that, not in the lesson. And the same thing here. I will never cross that line here. But I might talk about shrink type stuff, right? Does that make sense? So yes, I've had students that were carrying around so much guilt that their thoughts were so conflicted. Now, and by the way, that's where the shaky tone comes from. If you are conflicted, your tone, your muscles are fighting against each other. Because half of your muscles are saying, yes, do it, go for it. And the other half of your muscles are saying, you fool, you idiot. You know, a lot of people don't want to think that playing trumpet is a religious thing, but you can't, because it is a performance art, you can't separate your religion from your trumpet. It's not possible. So if you're Buddhist, you have to be a Buddhist trumpet player. If you're Muslim, you have to be a Muslim trumpet player. If you're Christian, you have to be a Christian trumpet player. That doesn't mean that the music you play has to be like that, but your approach to the instrument should not be inconsistent with your religious beliefs. And I know that's a real big rabbit hole to go into, but usually when I hear someone with a shaky tone, there's nothing you can do for it. Me as a teacher. What tips am I going to give you? Now, I will say that if you hold a long tone and can't hold it steady, that's a good indicator. You can practice being more focused and more peaceful. But like I said, you can't just turn that off just because now you're playing trumpet. You can't just turn that off. So yeah, I'm hoping I'm not scaring most of you guys away. But a lot of the stuff is, a lot of the problems we have on the trumpet can be rooted in stuff like that. And the shaky tone is definitely one of those things. And I do believe that, you know, the first time I heard someone say that stuff is caused by caffeine was back when people, there was no Starbucks, there were no energy drinks. You know, the amount of caffeine you could get, I think Mountain Dew was the highest caffeine you could have back then in a single drink. And they weren't putting caffeine in all the food products that you're eating too. Right? So caffeine is actually a weird thing that's going on right now in our society. Okay, so this is confirmation. ACAC says, that helps a lot because I do usually have a lot on my mind when I practice and play. I'm never 100% focused on my playing. Other stuff is on my mind as well Besides long tones, how can I get an even tone? So that's what I'm saying. So you have to ask yourself, why is your mind on other stuff? And I don't want to hear that right now. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not anybody's shrink, right? I'll tell my students, I don't want to hear it. Don't you even try to tell me, right? I'm not interested. I have enough of my own problems. Thank you very much, right? But you need to ask yourself why you can't just sit down there and focus on what you're doing. I can't help you with your I can't help you with your shaky tone if that is an underlying problem. And no, so I think that's what I'm trying to say about the lessons, right? I'm not going to help you straighten that out in your lesson. That's your job. That's something you're supposed to do on your own. It's so this thing, ACAC, this inability to focus it's a serious thing. That's a serious thing. That's not okay. And you know what? It makes me angry when adults. It makes me angry when adults say, "Oh ha 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 ha." What's that? It's one of those initials, right? Not OCD. That's the other thing. ADD. They'll say, "Ha ha ha." I'm ADD. That's not funny. That's not funny at all. The ability to focus is a crucial skill in life. It's primary to all the rest of this, right? It comes before all the rest. If you can't focus, you have to put the horn away and say, okay, something going on over here in my life. I need to get that straightened out. All right, so here we go. Javier, and I kind of jumping around a little bit. Javier says, I try and sell mouthpieces from different brands. It's fun, and there are differences between brands. Shaky has a more cutting rim versus Yamaha. That's right. You know, I was doing that on eBay for a long time until I had a whole box of mouthpieces. And because I hadn't paid a whole bunch for them, I was lending that one to that student, lending that one to that student, and lending that one and all that. And which is fine, right? But now I'm down to almost nothing, right? Good thing I didn't pay a lot for them. And Anthony says, I have been using a 7C for about 120 years now. So now I decided to get a 5C. That's a good mouthpiece. There's a lot of people that play on 5C. Javier says, I'm planning this experiment of selling my intermediate trumpet, save money, buy the cheapest Chinese trumpet that works, and progress. Just use that for some time until I buy a pro one. You know what? I like to hear that kind of talk, right? Plans. I would much rather see people make plans and execute the plans than to just, compulsively. No, impulsively. Just buy stuff. Really. And you know what? That's what makes me such a terrible salesman. I don't like impulse sales. I don't want people when people buy my stuff, I don't want them to buy the stuff impulsively. I want people to think it through, and if it's something they need, then I want them to have access to it. I don't want people buying my stuff just because they were because really, when you're impulsive, you're easily manipulated, right? I could go on about that for hours. That's one of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately. Hello, Gabriel. So Gabriel reminds me. He says he's driving and he can't. He can only just listen. That's cool. I got a let me see if I can find that real quick. I got a Facebook message, and someone in Italy, his trumpet ensemble. Now this is the second time he's sent me videos. His student trumpet ensemble was in a contest, and he sent me the link so I could see the contest. So I'll try to put the link in the chat. I'm waiting for the other browser to open. I don't put Facebook in this browser because I don't like being on Facebook. It's a self-control thing. Well, no, let's call it discipline, right? It's a self-discipline thing. I remember reading something recently about the difference between self-control and self-discipline. Self-control is what you have when your favorite food is sitting right there in front of you and you know you're not supposed to touch it, and it's just sitting there and you don't touch it. Discipline is when you say, I'm not going to have that around me at all, right? So let me open this up and get that link. This should be it. I'll put it in here. Oh, that's a Facebook link. That's not right. Okay, delete that. See, that's what I'm talking about. I don't like Facebook. I don't like anything addictive. And so that sounds weird, right? It sounds like I'm what do you call it? Like contradicting myself. Okay, I'm almost there. Sorry about that. I've got the link copied now. So because Facebook knows they are addictive, because Facebook knows that it's addictive, they can do all this kind of malicious stuff. Like you can't click on a link without them embedding their own code into it. That's just terrible. But they get away with stuff like that because they know you can't live without it. Anyway, that link that I just put up there is his ensemble, and they're performing at least two of my pieces. There were some that I've written so many beginner trumpet pieces I can't remember my own stuff anymore. I know that's a little bit embarrassing. So some of them sounded like mine, but I don't think they were. But yes, there are at least a couple pieces on there that are mine, and it's some contest. It looks like I don't read Italian. But yeah, it's some contest in Italy. I'm very happy to have people over there playing my music like that. All right, any other questions? Did I skip any? Okay. Any other questions? You know what's funny? Now, we had one student today asking about the all-state music. It's what I find very peculiar is that there aren't more, right? And you know what? I have tools that I've paid for that I can look and see how much traffic certain search words are getting on Google and stuff like that. And you should see how very few people are looking for Allstate stuff on Google. And that's worldwide. That's worldwide. So something has happened to this. I know I said this last week or the week before. Something has happened to the children that they're just not as ambitious as we used to be when I was a kid. I mean, they've got Google on their phone. If you had questions about the music, now here's another philosophical problem with, and this is very much related to the music, right? The way people are being taught today, they're being taught to feel, not to think. And I'm going to say that one more time, and it's just as true in music as it is outside of music. They're being taught to feel instead of think, and they're being taught that that feeling that they do is actually thinking, and that's not actually true. And because they think they're doing so much thinking when they're actually really feeling, they consider themselves intellectuals because they do so much thinking. But what they do is not thought. What they do, they'll like hold an object in their head or an issue in their head, and they'll experience emotions. So what I find amazing, now taking this back to the trumpet, right? There's this phenomenon amongst the younger people. If you're taught that way, you think you already know stuff. And you know, there's and I saw somewhere that this was just a myth, urban legend kind of stuff, but there's a Buddhist story about the master. The master has the cup on the table. The cup is full to the top, and the master asks the student, "Please fill my cup for me." And the student says, "But master, your cup is already full." And that's supposed to be a lesson about how we learn. If you already have the answer in your mind, right? If you think that you already have the answer, you will never actually achieve the answer. And this is a fatal error. And it's a little bit frightening. I'm not afraid. I'm not saying I'm afraid. The idea of it is frightening because these are the same people now who are designing our bridges, who are fixing our airplanes, who are operating on our hearts, who are giving us our medication. And you better be taking care of yourself because they're not going to take care of you. But yes, you take that back to the trumpet. And I think that's part of the phenomenon where the kids they're not Googling this stuff. That's why this year I was kind of not really interested in making all the videos, right? Because I got the impression that the students are only using the videos to copy them. And that's not really what it's really for. That's not really how it works. That should only be such a small part of your effort to make it into Allstate. But yes, it's amazing to me to see the numbers. And I'm talking like, I forget what the numbers are, and it's worldwide. It's you would think, because there's literally thousands of trumpet players all around the country, right? Talking about the United States. I think every state has Allstate. You would think that there would be 20, 30,000 searches for Allstate music, right? Allstate music stuff per month. And it's not anywhere near that, nowhere close to that, like a fraction of that. And I really think that the underlying philosophy of what's being taught in our schools is to blame. I really believe that. People are feeling instead of thinking, and what that leads to is them having their heads full already of all the answers, because their truth is their feeling. Gary says, is learning a variety of all styles of music important for trumpet performers? There are a lot of nice trumpeters who stick to one style in their lane, but shouldn't musicians be more well-rounded? So, thank you for opening that can of worms. So I'm working on this new philosophy, this new theory, whatever you want to call it. I believe there are different types of musicians based on the role that they play in their musical environment. Okay? So, for example, we have people who are artists. We have people who are workers. We have people who are virtuosos. Those are the three that I know for sure I'm going to teach right now. Okay? Artists, workers, and virtuosos. I have made the majority of my career as a worker. Now, what you're saying, Gary, is true for the workers. The workers, if a worker wants to make a living, the worker should be able to do everything, all styles, always. It's not true for the other types. So, and what does a worker do? A worker sits and waits for the phone to call, and some band will call him. And when the band calls, it would be, let's say the band calls, it's a cumbia band, you don't know how to play cumbias. Well, that's money you're not going to make. Right? That's money you won't make. So as a worker, same thing, I had a problem. I didn't like, when I was younger, I didn't like that Guy Lombardo stuff. Right? I didn't like that society music stuff, but I actually got called by the Guy Lombardo band, and that gig kicked my butt. At the time, I was so good at sight reading salsa that I thought I could automatically play anything. And I got that Guy Lombardo gig and couldn't play. It was like the style was so foreign to me. Those guys never called me back again because it was awful. So yes, as a worker, we want to be able to do any style they call us for. As an artist, you should only be focusing on the one style. Really. Now, you might expand to learn some other styles to, I don't know, I think more than broadening your horizons, I think what it really does is gets the musicians that you hire, because the artist is going to have to work with workers. You see how that works? The artist is the main character of the band. It's usually the artist's band. And then the artist makes phone calls and calls the workers to come and play with their band. Right? So yes, the artist doesn't need, there's absolutely no need for the artist to go cross genre. There's no need for that. The artist can just do his or her own shtick, and that's not just only good enough, that's actually ideal. It's actually ideal. So the idea that we should all be able to do all the styles is an academic principle. Okay? So that's my take on that. Anthony says, I know you mentioned this before about high note exercises, that we should not do them every day. Can you elaborate? Okay, first of all, the only time I say that is when people say they're going to be doing my system. Okay? If you're doing my system, then we don't practice high note exercises at all. Okay? I don't believe in doing high note exercises because they cause you to make adjustments that are not consistent with your playing. Okay? So what we do is practice up to your full range. But those aren't high note exercises. We're taking everything to your full range 2 days a week. The other days we are limiting our range to give our chops rest. Okay? So that's how that works. We are only going up to our practical range. We don't go past our range. And we only do that twice a week. And the reason for that is because we want to have the horn on our face, but we also want the rest at the same time. And that's a way to have the rest without having to sacrifice time on the horn. James, hello James, nice to see you. James says, I think I could develop a good lip buzz if I worked on it a little more, but it tires out my chops before I get to play. What are the benefits? Does it help with efficiency? How long should I do it for? So lip buzz should always be short. Now, here's my thing about fatigue. What you do now that makes you tired will not make you tired tomorrow. And I don't mean literally tomorrow, I mean in the future. So if the reason you're not doing it is because your chops are already tired before you play, if you continue to do the lip buzz, your chops would get strong enough so that, now that said, I don't do the lip buzz does make your chops stronger. I have said in the past that we don't do lip buzz for strength, and I still stand by that. But what I mean by that is that's not why we do them. Okay, so the benefits of lip buzz mostly is that it gives us the proper, what I call lip posture. And that proper lip posture is different for different ranges. So the whole point of doing the lip buzz is to move the notes. If you're just going, and that's it, then you're not really getting the benefit. All right. So when you're doing that, your lips are learning where that perfect position is and all that. But it's really about familiarity with your embouchure. We've talked before about familiarity in here. I like to think of it like layers of snow, right? Every time you do something to become more familiar with something, it's a layer that comes down. The next time you do something on that issue again, the layer comes down, the layer comes down. And with the lip buzz, you're getting layers of familiarity every day, but familiarity with your embouchure. And that pays huge dividends. Now, going back to the fatigue thing, if it's making you tired and that's the reason you're not doing it, that's not a good reason. There are good reasons for not doing it. That's just not one of them. Okay? That's just not one of them. Does it help efficiency? I don't think I would say that. I don't think I would say flat out lip buzz helps efficiency. I don't think I would say that. Okay? But yes, so the same thing about fatigue. I say it all the time about mouthpieces and so like I told you that I do rim size first and I have to have a huge rim. Well, the huge rim is going to make you tired faster. But that's only temporary. I've seen people buy beautiful instruments and they sound gorgeous on the instrument. And the next time I see them at the next gig, they don't have the horn anymore. And I ask them what happened, and they say, well, it was a great horn, but it made me tired. And I'm thinking, you just passed up a wonderful opportunity to be a better player. If you have something that makes you sound better and you're just not going to do it because it makes you tired, the fatigue thing is the one thing we can improve in forever. Wherever your fatigue is now, we can take it up another notch. Not fatigue, I'm talking about endurance, right? Wherever your endurance is, you can take it up another notch. There's no limit to how much endurance you can have. There's no limit. So endurance should never be a deciding factor unless it's short term, right? If you don't have time to actually build that endurance, that's a different issue. Let's say they want you to play that trumpet next week in the recording session, and you just can't get the chops that soon. Well, that's different, right? But as long as you have the time to work through the endurance, you will get stronger. Well, that's one of the reasons I like practicing the way I do. I always practice on my biggest, heaviest equipment. And then I go on the gig and I play on my smallest equipment. And it's like, whoo, I could do this all day. Because, it's like the old ankle weights thing, right? Where you run with the ankle weights on, or now we don't do ankle weights, we do the weight vest. Right, running with a weight vest on, which is also still stupid, but you get the idea. And then you take the weight vest off, and you can go real fast. You know what they're doing now? And my wife bought me one, and then I started having health stuff, and I haven't been able to use it. She bought me a parachute, so that I put the parachute on my back and then run, and the parachute pulls drag on you. and you get a better workout that way. How cool is that? I still haven't used it yet. I'm getting back. That's very exciting. I'm getting back. Um, but yes, that's the kind of stuff we do in sports, right? You make it harder so that you can do better. So anyway, that's my stance on the endurance thing. Graziano says, well, hello, Graziano. Special device for all brass DIT. Oh, okay, that's an ad on my. We must be going up in the world. People are spamming our. A special device for. Let me look this up. Maybe this is not spam. If you're not spamming me, I apologize. I'm a digital imaging technician. That's probably not it. Let me put Trumpet in there. Oh my. I'll have to check this out later. Sean Burton says, in our email you mentioned Phil Driscoll is a high note specialist, but his range has decreased. What do you think it was, and what is it potentially now? I'm not going to say that, okay? I don't think his range is what it used to be. That's not a big deal. I'm not going to answer that question, but I need to think for a second about why I'm not going to answer that. I never, first of all, it might come out as if I'm criticizing him, because the high note guys are very, very touchy about their high note stuff. And if you say, oh, he can't play as high as he used to, that's very offensive, right? But that's not really why I'm saying it. Let's see. You know, when I mentioned that in your email, I was trying to emphasize the fact that it doesn't matter how high you play, you can still be that kind of player. That's what I was trying to say. So I'm not going to answer a question about how high he can play. I think I'm not going to answer that. Being a high note specialist is not about how high can you play. I'm not a high note specialist. I can teach you how to do that stuff. And yet, and this is without warming up today, what am I saying? I just passed out for a second. That's the first time I've passed out playing high notes in a long time. Maybe it's because I'm talking about high note players. That was an E above super C, right? I'm not a high note specialist, right? So when you talk about the high note guys, it's a style. It's not what they're playing. It's how they play it, right? So that was. Let me get my other horn. This is actually a Phil Driscoll model trumpet. It says Phil Driscoll, Mighty Horn. Okay? Okay? Now, I'm not saying that was like Phil Driscoll, but that is that other style. I don't consider myself that kind of player. But if you have the and that wasn't that was an octave lower than what I played on the other instrument. I hope that makes sense. Okay? That, what I just played now, which sounded like high note trumpet stuff, was over an octave lower than what I played on the other horn. So I hope that makes sense. Gary Sheehan says thank you. Anthony says thank you. You guys are welcome. Gary says range does not matter as much as making a beautiful melody sound and knowing how to phrase a tune. That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely true. James says my endurance has increased significantly since doing your chop series. Good. Practice sessions are much more productive now. Wonderful. We love to hear that. Actually, everything is improving. So glad I found you. Well, I'm glad it's working out. I love that. Okay. All right. So, Sean, I hope you understand what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. You know, there's a lead player in town that I just love to work with. I haven't worked with him in over 10 years. His name is Jimmy Brennan. And he used to be one of the top lead players in Houston. Over the years, his range has gone down. But we were playing a gig together. I think the highest note on the gig was high C. He was playing lead. And some of the best lead playing I've ever heard in my whole life. It has nothing to do with how high you're playing. It really is a style. And by the way, how you mic and stuff like that, and what your reverb is and all that, what effects you have, that makes a huge difference for that style of music. All right, so do we have any other questions left before we sign off? Otherwise, we're going to call it quits. We're a little bit over time. So I'm actually playing a Phil Driscoll style gig in Conroe at the end of the month. A church has hired me to play a very powerful arrangement of, I think it's America, and it has like high note stuff on it. I'll be playing that horn and that trumpet, and yeah. So when I play that stuff, people like it because it reminds them of Phil Driscoll, I think. But it's not high. That's what I'm trying to say. The highest note, I think, is up to D above the staff. So listen to what it sounds like if I play stuff that is. If I play this up to super C, I hope I don't pass out again. That was like the first time I passed out in years and years and years, like over 15 years. Right? So doesn't that sound more like that kind of trumpet playing? So my highest note on that was a super C. And that's without getting warmed up, by the way. I have to tell you that because I'm kind of bragging. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care about high notes, so that wouldn't be bragging to me. I really, really don't care about high notes. So, Sean, in your email, when you said everybody cares about all trumpet players care about high notes, I think you're wrong about that. I don't think everybody likes high notes. There's a lot of people that would rather listen to Chet Baker than to listen to Maynard Ferguson. I actually like both of them. But if I had to choose a gig that played like Maynard and a gig that played like Chet Baker, I would take the Chet Baker gig. Anyway, 10 seconds for another question, and then we'll be out of here. And Gary. All right. All right. Hello. Bye, Gary. Bye, Sean. Bye, the other Sean. Great to see all you guys again. You guys have become sort of like regulars, huh? I love that. It's like a little, almost like a family almost now, the way this is turning out. And that's great. So anyway, God bless you guys. Have a great week, and we will probably see you tomorrow. I know I have 1 week, not tomorrow, next week. I know I have 1 week when I can't do this because of a gig, but I can't remember off the top of my head which week that is. All right, well, have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.